Hey everyone, welcome back to our fertility series. I'm Dr. Kaylee McIsaac from AccuBalance Wellness Center. So let's talk about food. Big concerns in our food chain for toxin exposure, firstly would be mercury in our fish or heavy metal contamination in our fish. And what we know is that the bigger the fish, the more mercury is contained in that fish. So choosing smaller, cold water, wild-caught fish helps to reduce your exposure to that toxin in particular. So there's less mercury, for example, in a wild, small Atlantic salmon than there would be in a huge, deep fish tuna. So swordfish, tuna, these are some of the bigger fish that you'd want to avoid in order to limit your mercury exposure. Very easy to look up mercury content in fish online, but generally small, wild, local ideally is what you want to be purchasing. A lot of people will then, they'll say, well, okay, if I don't want mercury in my fish, I'm just going to buy farmed fish because farmed fish don't have mercury. They're not swimming in the wild. The problem is that farmed fish are actually very high in PCBs. Remember how women with high levels of PCB have a 50% reduced fecundity or fertility rate? You do not, under any circumstances, want to be choosing farmed fish. So wild, small, cold water fish are the best. A second concern is pesticides. And when I give you all that literature about how pesticides can influence female reproduction and male reproduction, it can often feel very overwhelming. But know that we can change the level of pesticides in our systems actually fairly quickly. So there was a study done on 23 children between the ages of 3 and 11. And what they did was they fed them organic only food and saw a pesticide level drop dramatically within 3 days of eating organic. So yes, some of the pesticides are persistent, but a lot of them are non-persistent. And the first few days even that you make a significant change like this to your diet, you can already see the benefit in lower levels. At a minimum, you want to follow the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 lists. So the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 are lists that the EWG puts out every year. They look at they look at pesticide contamination in the major crops in the United States. And they come up with a list of the 12 dirtiest or highest pesticide residue fruits and veg and the 15 cleanest. You want to always be purchasing organic versions of the Dirty Dozen. And then the Clean 15 are the produce types that you can kind of get away with buying conventional versions of. If you do buy some conventionally or chemically grown foods, washing them does actually make a pretty significant difference. Using something acidic seems to be the most effective. So diluted vinegar or using like citric acid as a wash seems to be the best way of decreasing pesticides. Storage containers, we talked about BPA in our plastics. Know also that the BPA that lines cans is a huge contributor to BPA levels. There was a soup study done where they had people consume one 12-ounce serving every day for 1 week of Progresso canned soup versus fresh soup that somebody had made a big batch of, and they saw a 12-fold increase in their levels of BPA. So watch out for canned foods. There's a soy study, so 2 servings of 6 ounces of soy milk in a can compared to soy milk stored in glass. There was a 16-fold increase in BPA, and they actually also saw an increase in systolic blood pressure by 4.5 millimeters of mercury. So people's blood pressure went up also in response to this higher level of BPA. Also, no perfluoride-based non-stick pans. So that's just no Teflon, no non-stick pans. Watch Dark Waters. You will never cook food in non-stick pans after you watch that movie. And then if you can, grow your own food or shop at farmers markets as much as possible. Get as close to the source of your food as you possibly can so you know what is going into every step of the process. Here is the most updated Dirty Dozen in Clean 15. So the Dirty Dozen being the highest pesticide residue-laden produce this year. And then the Clean 15, those are the ones that have the lowest pesticide levels. You are the safest to go ahead and purchase conventional. If you're going to buy conventional produce of anything, choose the Clean 15. Take a screenshot of this, or if you miss it, you can sign up to get your free copy at environmentalworkinggroup.org, ewg.org. And then don't forget, I always talk about pesticides in relation to fruits and vegetables because that's often how we think about it, but the quality of your animal products makes a really big difference as well. So EWG is a listing for produce, but animal foods are a significant source of toxicity because a lot of toxins accumulate in adipose tissue or fat tissue. So anything that has fat will accumulate toxins, and they tend to bioaccumulate in the food chain. When we've looked at research for diet and fertility, we know that full fat dairy is better for fertility than non-fat dairy, probably because we use fats to manufacture all of our hormones. So these fats are not bad for us. We want to have them in our systems. But if you tolerate dairy, you want to buy full fat, but definitely buy organic and grass-fed so that it's a lower likelihood that that animal has bioaccumulated high levels of toxins in the fat of that animal product. How do we want to be thinking about our water? So what are the concerns in our water? We might be concerned about, microorganisms like Giardia, Cryptosporosis, Legionella. We might be concerned about disinfection byproducts like the chlorites that I talked about earlier, or bromates. We might be concerned about inorganic and organic chemicals and metals. So arsenic that we talked about earlier, and glyphosate, which is that pesticide. We can find residues of that in some water supplies in Canada and the US. So we want to be filtering our water. A faucet filter is maybe not like the gold standard option. It has limited value because it's only going to filter what's going through the faucet that you have it attached to. So for example, it's not going to also filter your shower head. It won't also filter the tap water in your bathroom if you have it in your kitchen, but it's definitely better than nothing. The best way of filtering your water would be to have a whole house system. So if you own your home, you can buy a whole house carbon block filter with a metal precipitator, so that will filter out these microorganisms, these disinfection byproducts, the inorganic and organic chemicals. If you know there are high levels of arsenic or fluoride in your water supply, you do actually need to use reverse osmosis, so that's a more involved system than just a carbon block filter. But if that's not an option, try to filter as much of the water in your home as you can. So we rent an apartment. I can't install a whole house water filter where I rent my apartment. So I have a Berkey filter in the kitchen, which is a good carbon block filter. So all of our drinking and cooking water goes through the Berkey, and then a shower filter on our shower because chlorine is very easy for us to inhale from the water supply, especially when water is heated. So just think about where you're getting your water from, where you're having big contact, and try and filter that as well as you possibly can, wherever it is that you live. Air is the next system. So remember how I said earlier that the closer a woman lives to a highway, the higher her risk of infertility? This is why. So air pollution worldwide is a problem. The things we can do about this are controlling the air in our homes and in our workplaces. So again, best option, filter all of the air in your home. There's a rating on filters called a MERV rating. You want at least a MERV 8, and ideally that'd be running 24/7 in your house. The higher the number, the better. There was actually a study done that when they took people who had inflammatory processes happening, and they spent just 2 days in a MERV 12 filtered environment, there's a 33 to 58% reduction in inflammatory markers and a decrease in blood pressure, just from changing their environment, just from living in a place where the air is filtered. If you can't do that, then ideally you have a HEPA filter in each of your main rooms. So have one in your living area, have one in your bedroom, your child's bedroom. Each of the main areas should have its own HEPA filter to keep that air clean. Remove your shoes before you enter your home. That's a huge way that we track things in. You know, your neighbor maybe sprays some herbicides during dandelion season on their lawn. That gets on your shoes. You bring that into your home. You don't want to be walking around your house and your carpets and things like that with those contaminated shoes. You can consider your home or declare your home a scent-free zone. We'll see in a minute that a lot of fragrances are toxic chemicals. It's a way of sort of hiding toxic chemicals on a label, is by putting the word fragrance on there. So, you know, tell your friends and your kids' friends that this home is a scent-free zone. Please don't wear your perfumes when you guys come over here. And we have the same policy at our work. Try to allow outdoor air for fresh circulation, but maybe limited if you live close to a highway. And consider toxin absorbing plants. A lot of plants do a great job of filtering the air in our homes. Some of the top 4 toxin absorbing plants are moss cane, potted mums, Gerber daisies, interestingly, and ficus. So surround yourself in your space with lots of greenery that does a really great job of absorbing some of these inhaled toxins.